Hey guys, it's Olivie Blake, and this is me not writing. Let the record show that this is not the lighting I would choose if I could choose it. Oh, that's just vanity. Let's not worry about it. Okay, I'm setting an alarm. I have very little time. When is that not true? Well, you probably know that I'm here in order to promote a book. That's often why I'm here. Hashtag blessed. But you, at this time, you know which book it is. So as you can see, we have the Atlas Complex US edition, the Atlas Complex UK and Commonwealth edition, and the Atlas Complex Barnes and Noble edition, which does come with an additional short story. Behold, feast your eyes. Beautiful. I am going on tour by the time this posts. I believe I will probably already be on tour. Here's the thing that Tor Books made. I look really bad in hats. I'm not a hat person. But I do have extras. And so I think when I return, ouch, just poked myself in the eye. When I return from tour, I will do a giveaway. We will do a couple of signed copies and some hats. I also have a bunch of friendship bracelets, but I think those are probably going to be given away on tour. It's going, I mean, these are friendship bracelet rules, okay? You get what you get and you have to trade if that's what you want, okay? It's an exercise in extroversion. Anyway, yeah, the Atlas Complex is coming out. That's crazy. I feel like I'm not in a place where I can talk about the trilogy being over, although I'm aware that there is a question for me about that. So some things I wanted to talk about. What I did over winter break. I will be honest with you, I actually filmed a video at the end of the year, last year in 2023, talking about all the books I read throughout the year. And I don't know, I just like couldn't deal with myself and didn't want to edit it. So that's just not. Last year wasn't my best like reading year anyway. I read a lot of really good books, but I didn't read as much as I had in previous years because I worked a lot. I wrote many manuscripts last year, all of which I'm revising now. So I took winter break off, which was kind of a dumb decision, actually. The holidays are a very stressful time, and I always forget that. I'm like, oh, I should take time off. But actually, like, I go insane if I don't have like fiction to write. If I don't have a creative project, then it's basically like I'm unmedicated for a couple of weeks, which is not something that you want to see happen. So yeah, but I did read a lot of books, and here they are. So Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson, which was great, very short. If you're looking for something that's sapphic and very vibey and very short, like you could read it in a couple of hours, Bloom is great. Maybe you can feel that there's like a but coming. So Bloom does not have a happy ending. So I just think you should be aware of that like the vibes in the beginning might lead you to believe something. It's very, okay, let's put it this way. It's very Blackbeard. Like you will, if you're a fairy tale person, you will recognize that right away. And I actually can't remember the ending of Blackbeard, which I think was more positive than the ending of this book. It's good. It's fun. It's fun in a very dark way. Anyway, I don't know if I talked about it here, but maybe not because I read it right at the end of the year, but The Center by Ayesha Manazir Siddiqi, which was really good, has something in common with Bloom. It was like, okay, I don't want to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it. Really interesting concept. It's about translation. It was a really interesting take on translation. It's sort of vaguely in feral girl fiction, but not really. Like, I recently wrote a post that's going to go live this week for Tor.com called 5 Books About Regretting That Cult You Joined, and the center is on there. I'll let you read. Chain Gang All Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. That was a great book. It was a great book. Like just speaking like craft-wise, a really excellent book. But it's one of those things where like, so I work, oh my God, I just saw the most enormous spider. I am now living in fear. Okay, so I dropped out of law school. And I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I wanted to do something in the criminal justice realm. I just felt that I didn't have any power as a lawyer, which was true. You have like no power as a lawyer really, because you have to follow all the rules. Oh God, there's so many disgusting things in here. So I dropped out of law school. I wanted to work in criminal justice. I went to work for a nonprofit that was essentially advocating for prison reform. It was a very depressing time. Prisons are bad. The state of prisons is really, really bad. And I spent most of that time talking to elected representatives and basically lobbying against certain things that would be really, really bad for the incarcerated population. Learned a lot about prisons in a way that was like, oh my God, this problem is so huge. Like, this is part of what was really contributing to my sense that like law school was just not the right place. I was just like, there is nothing I can do here. It could have been like, I could have gotten a law degree and worked in advocacy. It was not a great place for someone of my fragile mental constitution. What I'm trying to say is Chain Gang All-Stars is perhaps most effective as an essay about the American privatization of prisons. Like, it's incredibly realistic. It's incredibly believable. And that's obviously very dark. But the way it was written, the style it was written in, just from a craft perspective, really, really excellent. But it's still, like, for me, I think, would be most effective if you had no idea about any of that. Just the way that it focused on racism and classism and misogynoir and oh my God, yeah, like every footnote in there is like very legit. It's almost like a thesis that happens to have a really, really compelling plot and concept as well. And let's see. The Changeling by Victor LaValle was one of my favorite things I read. I have heard about the Apple TV adaptation. I haven't actually seen anything about the adaptation except that the book has been around because of the adaptation. My favorite Bookstagram account, The Novel Neighbor, they told me IRL that this is a book I should read, and they were absolutely right. It is definitely a dark fairy tale. It is definitely horror. There is gore. It's not something I could have read like right after I first gave birth, for sure. Like, if you're someone with a newborn, maybe pass on The Changeling for a little bit, but it was really, really good and really propulsive. Like, I'm pretty sure that I started reading it at the beginning of a plane flight and then finished like in the car on the way to my in-laws. It was really, really good. When and Art Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher was fantastic. A real change of pace. It's YA. It's like Arthuriana-ish. It's not about Guinevere and Arthur. It's about like their descendants, arguably, many years later, and in sort of like an alternate version England. And it's definitely like a queer coming of age story more than anything. There is romance. The romance is really good, but it also, like, I would say it's more coming of age. It's so funny. I like was giggling out loud while I was holding my sleeping son and he almost woke up, and I couldn't stop laughing over Little Arthur Two Hats. So it was really good. I knew it was going to be good. I felt it in my bones. It really, like, the beginning feels like the montage from The Swan Princess. And then the book overall just has like the overall vibes of A Knight's Tale. Like, almost nothing in common with A Knight's Tale, but the vibes are there. And then finally, my favorite book that I read over winter break was The Hunger Games. I have never engaged in any Hunger Games media. I've never seen the films. I never read the books. They came out, I'm not sure when they actually came out, but I do remember that I was on vacation. I had just graduated college, was on vacation with my friend. She was reading The Hunger Games, and I was reading The Beautiful and the Damned by Fitzgerald. I also read One Day by David Nichols on that trip, which is a great book. Devastating, great. But anyway, so I was like, The Hunger Games, what's The Hunger Games about? And she's like, well, these kids have to kill each other. And let me just say, it was a really not compelling pitch, okay? She did not make it sound like it was good. So I was like, whatever, not interested in that. And then the films came out, and I was like, I don't know, in law school by then, I never got around to it. And then I started being a little bit curious because there are all these comps. Chain Gang All-Stars, for example, is comp to The Hunger Games. The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which I haven't read yet, but is on my TBR. That's also been comped to The Hunger Games. And I was like, what is this about The Hunger Games? Should I read The Hunger Games? I have also not engaged with any Twilight media. I was told by the Holly Black that I need to watch the Twilight film. So obviously that's really weighing on me and I need to get to it. But Hunger Games first. These books are really good. Did you know? Did everyone else know but me? They're really good. I have only read the first one so far. I had to stop and pick up, the latest by Olivie Blake to revise. But yeah, really good. I had a really good time reading it. I think I read that all in one go as well. Stayed up late to finish it. So yeah, looking forward to that. What am I reading now? Right now I'm reading The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood. I'm really trying to read more second world fantasy. MORDEW by Pheby is up next as well. I think, I don't know if I talked here yet about how I read The Haunting of Hill House, but I am desperate to read more Shirley Jackson. I've read The Lottery. We studied it when I was in high school. I've read We've Always Lived in the Castle. And I don't know why Hill House took me forever to get to. And I found it so funny. And now I'm like, you know what? I really need to engage with more Shirley Jackson. You guys know I love Katrina Ward. And she definitely, like, she's won a Shirley Jackson award. And now that makes a lot of sense to me. Like, I can now connect those dots in a way I couldn't before. So yeah, there we go. There's that. Sometimes people ask me what my New Year's resolutions are. Nobody asked me this year, but it's like that's going to stop me. So this year I have 3 New Year's resolutions. Mr. Blake always chooses things that are like very achievable. And usually he just does them for a year and then stops. Like one year he just gave up energy drinks, and then January 1st the following year was like, okay, back to it. And it's almost like for him it's just a way to like test his willpower. I would like to make some like meaningful changes to myself, my very imperfect self. And I may have set the bar too high. We'll see. Okay, so number 1, I slipped a disc in my lower back again over the holidays. Part of that I think is like my child keeps climbing on me. Like that's his favorite game right now. I was doing 10 minutes of yoga every day, and that was going really well for me, like at least 10 minutes. And then my son started to climb on me while I did it. And that kind of like, it's very hard to downward dog with a child that's hanging on your shoulders. It kind of defeats the purpose. And so I got out of the habit, even though it was really good, not just for my physical body, because my body does behave differently now. Like there are many things that you needn't worry about in terms of your 30s, but one of them is your joint health, I think, and actually stretching. So my number 1 thing is I got to get back to the stretching, and I like doing, I do the yoga that's on like whatever apples, the Apple trainers. Like it's helpful that I can do it in my living room, that there are a variety of paces. And this is not a commercial. No one is paying me to say this. A variety of paces. I can do it in my living room, a variety of time lengths. So it's kind of like depending on how much time I have left over when I finished my tasks for the day, I fit in whatever will fit. But I also like that I have to kind of hold a positive thought in my head. Like I think that my brain, all of our brains, certainly to an extent, but also my brain that has been very ruined by my therapist being on maternity leave. That's a nightmare I wasn't prepared for. I really thought I was going to be fine. I'm not fine. You're not going to see me as my best self this week, whenever this posts, but like, we're trying. Yeah, I think that instead of, catastrophizing and living in the infinite scroll, I need that 10 minutes of positive thinking a day. I need to do it and practice it. I feel like I'm trying to think of like, I feel like happiness is something you have to develop an endurance for. You have to train yourself to think of positive things and to hold on to the positive things for longer periods of time. Like, of course, negative thoughts and feelings will occur to you, but I think the difference is like, do you hold on to those? And my brain definitely does. So we're practicing holding other things instead, keeping our hands full of other stuff. So that's number 1. Number 2, I really need to change the way I use social media. I don't know. I think I have to stop thinking of it as social media generally and like develop a plan for each social media platform, because Instagram is where I get tagged in negative stuff a lot. And it's kind of misleading because it'll be this beautiful photo and then it'll be like, by the way, here's an opinion about everything that Olivie Blake is doing wrong. And that's obviously not great. But on Twitter, it's a different problem where like if I have engaged with media that's about my work, then Twitter will start showing me negative things that I was not tagged in about my work. I need to get off Twitter anyway. The problem is that I'm a writer, and so Twitter is the place that makes the most sense to me. Like it's the one where I can engage the most. But I feel like I got to stop scrolling. I got to just be done with the scroll. The scroll is not helpful to my brain. It's not helpful to my artistic process. It's just like, I don't think that I would do the whole like have someone else run my social media accounts, because I don't think there's like, if I'm not physically there, if I'm not engaging with the community that's there, then they're just ads, you know, like then it's just promotion. And I don't see what the purpose of that is. Like I don't want to create meaningless content that's just like buy my books. That's not my goal. And so I really need to figure out a way to, as a user, disengage from the infinite scroll. Like my brain needs to, like I really have to take better care of my brain. I don't think, like many of you know, I'm writing another Alone with You in the Ether-esque book called Stargazing into Necrophilia. I'm going to keep saying that until Tor lets me keep the title. They don't like it. They think that it like suggests that there will be fucking dead people in the book. But like that's not it doesn't matter. I couldn't have written Alone with You in the Ether if I was very, very online, which I wasn't at the time. I was not that concerned with anything that was happening. I don't think I was I don't think I was on Twitter, and I don't think I was addicted in the same way I am now. And I'd like to, I don't, so I need to be in a place where I can create fearlessly, which is not something I can do if I'm on social media. I am very terrified of the internet and everybody who lives on it. Like that's what's happened to me over the last couple of years. I think I interacted with it differently when I felt I was an anonymous voice. And I don't feel that anymore, because I do feel that people are expecting me to behave a certain way. But I don't always know what that is. There are some people who engage with me like I am constantly available, and other people who engage with me as if I'm not a human being at all. So it's confusing for me. It's confusing for everyone, I imagine. Like, I don't know how I was using the internet when I was younger. It was a very confusing thing then too. I don't know. My point is, I have to not disengage, but find a way to coexist with what I want the internet to be for me. I want you to be free to dislike my work, where we just don't have to look each other in the eye while we talk about it. My third thing, I shop online too much. I think part of that is because for the last 2.5 years, my son is always asleep on me, and so I'm always on my phone, and I'm always, you know, tempted by stuff that's online that looks good in a picture and doesn't actually look good on me, or I don't actually know how it looks and feels until it arrives. And since I am very fortunate to live in a place where there are retail stores of places that I buy things from online, and I can just go to the store and feel those things, the tactility of those things, and see in person what they're actually like, I should do that, because I'm really trying to buy less and waste less. And like my method of sustainability that I would like to engage in is rather, you know, is just buying less and not letting things just accumulate and sit in my closet. But I am one of those people where like a return is a lot of work. So yeah. So the new rule is I have to go in person. I feel like that's going to be the hardest one, honestly. No, the social media one's going to be the hardest. Okay, I've got like 8 minutes left. I know I got some really good questions that I knew I just was not going to get around to answering, and so I answered them on Tumblr. A lot of people are asking me about like UK tour details. I don't have them yet. If I haven't posted them, it's because I don't have them. And I'm still sort of waiting to be told what's happening. That will be announced, I promise. Okay, here. So it's about the Atlas Complex. We are going to talk about the Atlas series, and I'm going to do my best to be like, you know, stable and sane while we talk about this. Like, it's a very emotionally charged thing to be done with the Atlas series. It's a thing that I started thinking that it was completely unmarketable and would only be interesting to a few people. And I think like a lot of times when I see the whole like controversial reviews about it, I'm like, yeah, I know. Like I didn't write it for everyone. I didn't think it was ready for everyone, or that everyone would like the style or the content or the relationships or the character dynamics. I didn't think it was for everyone. So like obviously with traditional publishing, they try to reach the broadest audience possible, and that leads to this sense that like disappointment for a lot of people. And like, I get it. I get it. It was always just a thing that I wanted to play with, like a thought exercise that I wanted to play with. I wanted to do it in a certain way. And I am very happy with how the series ends. Like, I think that the trilogy as a whole, and I do see it as the trilogy as a whole. I don't have a favorite book. They're all one story for me. This is in response to questions I've been asked. But in a sense, it's circular. You're supposed to get to the end and reflect on what you read in the beginning. Like, to me, that's the purpose of writing a series. I'm not saying you have to, but if you were to reread it, you would understand new things. That's the idea, that there is value in the initial read where you're just kind of reading to find out what happens. And then in the breaking down how it happens and what the themes are, there's supposed to be a lot for you to mine there. So someone asked, now that we're less than a month away, whose ending or third act in the Atlas complex was the most satisfying for you to write? So it doesn't have to be your favorite or the most pleasing, just the one that scratched the metaphorical narrative itch the best. So to me, in a lot of ways, to me, Tristan and Parisa are the main characters of this series. I obviously, there is a lot of time spent on Libby. Libby's arc is meant to be a subversion of a very classic fantasy archetype. She's meant to feel familiar. And, you know, so I achieved that. Hooray for me. Lots of people relate to Libby. But the reason I did that was so that we could watch the decisions she makes and feel the tension of maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, or how did we get to this point? When do you cross the line of no return? You know, at what point are you responsible for horrible things? And of course, I wanted her to feel like she could be anyone, like she could be you, so that you understand you are capable of horrible things. You're not supposed to believe that she is incapable of redemption. However, you are supposed to watch her make wrong choices and understand or think about why they are the wrong choices. This whole series is a study of ethics. And so you have to come from a place of a character who is only aesthetically ethical to the other characters who begin from a very unethical place and their lives are less individualized. Nico, Libby, and Callum all have very individualized storylines, whereas Raina, Parisa, and Tristan are more about I don't want to say it's institutional, but they come from different relationships within the institution. And yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, obviously. But I think there was something satisfying for everyone. Raina, I think, Raina is one of those that I knew at the end of the Atlas Paradox, I was like, the thing about Raina is there were a lot of people who loved her in book one because she didn't reveal anything. Raina is one of those people who she's not going to let you see her for a really long period of time. You don't see Raina for the entirety of book one. You don't know anything about her. And then what you see in book two is like kind of ugly. Like to a lot of people, it was very off-putting. And I don't think that ruined her necessarily, but I was worried that people would feel that way. And I think I was right that, she is a person who is very emotional, but doesn't believe that she is, and doesn't have any practice at using those emotions well, productively, wisely, engaging with them at all. Like, isn't any wonder then that she and Callum that was on purpose. Raina being sort of attracted in a not sexual way, but in some way to a character who's extremely emotional. Or who claims not to be, who claims to have no emotions whatsoever, but is like, just like, I can't help but think of the Atlas series as like the Muppets, where like just Callum is a Muppet and everybody else is a real person, like in the Muppet Christmas Carol. One thing that you have to understand about these books is that every narrator says things that are true, that are lies. Like, you can't trust any of the narrators, especially not what they say about themselves. I'm not answering the question. Every arc in this book was extremely satisfying. I did not know where everyone was going to end, with one exception. And I really enjoyed. It was really fun for all of those things to come to fruition. I sort of knew emotionally where we would be by the end, and I think we're there. Like, I shouldn't be so scared about this book coming out, because if it were, this is the book I would have written had the Atlas 6 never taken off. Like this is the ending. This is what it would have been regardless of its popularity. And I think there are going to be a lot of people who read it and realize they don't understand what the series is or was. And that's okay with me. There's a definite there's a pulpiness that you just have to buy into, and like I had a lot of fun. I felt a lot of things. The Atlas series was really about the Atlas series was really about me figuring out, how do we exist? What is the meaning of life? And then Gifted and Talented, which I just finished revisions on, that's about what does it mean to be happy? How can we be happy? Can a person who's been taught to reach for achievement ever find happiness? And then, you know, Girl Dinner, which is a whole other thing, is more about like, what does feminism mean now? It's turning out to be like satire of girl boss feminism and its failures, trad wife, like mom flincer culture, like trying to find feminism that fits. But it is definitely satire. It's definitely like absurd. Anyway, yeah, I'm going on tour. Please come hang out with me. I think this will maybe post on Sunday or Monday. I honestly don't know. In which case, Monday, I will see you, New York City, at Strand Books for the midnight release. I will also be signing a bunch of books around New York, so if you're looking for a signed copy, there will be some at Barnes & Noble at Union Square, the Ripped Bodice in Brooklyn, and then Philadelphia with ML Rio. I can't wait to talk about If We Were Villains. Tracy Dion in Raleigh, North Carolina on Friday. That is going to be so exciting. I love Tracy. I was going to accidentally, there's so much news that I'm sitting on, by the way, that I'm just not supposed to talk about. And then Saturday, Boston with R.F. Kuang. That is going to be a showstopper. Cannot wait. And then LA at the Grove. My second home, Barnes & Noble, the Grove. I can't wait to see all of you. Yeah, listen, thank you very much. Thank you very much for reading my books. It was really, really like just unhinged to see every single one of my titles on at least one person's like best of the year last year. That's insane. That's like, it feels so it feels like blind luck. It's wild that we could connect in that way. Thank you for picking up my books. Thank you for telling people to read them. Thank you for engaging with them. You know, thank you for letting me live in your head. It's such an honor. I am so, so excited about everything that's coming out this year. Some of you have noticed that January's is available to pre-order. I would wait. You know, we haven't even revealed the cover. We can wait to get hyped about that later, but it does exist. 12th Night coming out in June. It's going to be another big year. I'm so excited for everything to come. Thank you for being here. This has been me, Olivie Blake, and I'll see you next time.